So we have, as I said already.
Isaac?
Yes.
I was just going to jump in there and say I've changed the security settings, so if anybody wants to ask a question, they just unmute themselves as well. If they're not familiar with how to send a chat message, they can just unmute and ask a message, maybe raise their hand first.
Okay, very good. The first question that we have here is, I'm going to pass this on to Stephen. It's about the Malawi Gospel outreach trips that have been organized in years past. And the question is there a MGO trip planned for 2022? And if so, what are the dates? And maybe just for those that don't know what MGO is, Stephen, you'd be able to give them a little bit of insight as to what actually takes place at MGO.
Yeah, sure, Isaac. Thanks for that. I did mention MGO very briefly in passing in one of the videos, but it's a couple of weeks of intensive seed sower distribution and open air gospel outreach. We were doing it usually during the second and third weeks of August each year. We definitely were thinking about doing an MGO this year, just depending on the situation with COVID and so on. But what has happened today is going to set things back because we are needing to construct accommodation and all that kind of thing. Hopefully it won't set us back too far, but I would say just watch this space. If MGO does happen this year, it will probably be for 2 or 3 weeks from around about the 7th of August. And we encourage people, if we're going for 3 weeks, that maybe they can pick 2 weeks that suit them if they're not able to come for the whole 3-week period. But we'll probably be going out around about the 7th of August for 3 weeks.
Maybe I could add a little health warning to Stephen's comments about MGO. If you're thinking about going on MGO, be prepared for it to change your life, folks. Malawi is a tremendously open, receptive country for the gospel, and you will never go to a place where you'll see more opportunity for the gospel, and it will change you in many, many ways.
While you're waiting for folks to jump in and ask further questions, I noticed that Brother Harold has been on this evening, and I'm going to ask him if he could maybe turn his camera on, if he's able to do that, or maybe say hello to us. And I believe that Wati Paso is also on from Malawi. I'm not sure about any of the others, but maybe they would just say hello and give their greetings to us, and maybe give us a little bit of news on the folks that were hurt today in the lightning strike, if there's any update on that. Are you there, Brother Harold? Are you there, Wati Paso? I think not.
Well, hello, I don't know if anyone can see me.
Oh, yes, we can see you, Wati. Lovely.
Oh, great. Yeah, it's great to be with you all. Yeah, it was really devastating to see the fire today. We thank God that people have been able to come out all right, generally. So yeah, and we just appreciate your prayers as well. So yeah, just saying hello from here.
Thanks, Wati. Goodson's son Joseph was in the children's shelter at the time. He is recovered all right?
Sorry, I think the network.
Yeah, well, folks will understand why we didn't try and do live broadcasts. It was all recorded beforehand, because it is a bit of a problem. I was just asking about Joseph. Yeah. He's okay?
Yes, so from what I observed, and from Harold's message as well, it seems that he's all right. He just was quite shaken up, and seemed to be vomiting, but I think he should be all right. They've given him some medication and discharged him from the hospital. So
Good stuff. I see Brother Harold has got his microphone on now. Would you greet us, Harold? Oh, it's not working.
Can you hear me, Stephen?
Else has a question. Oh, we can hear you, Harold. Yes, thank you, brother.
Oh yeah, greetings to everybody. I'm happy. I was happy to join the live streaming today. Yeah, thank you.
Harold, can you give us an update what the situation is?
Oh yeah, sure. I just came in this evening from Zomba, and the other guy has also been discharged. So Goodson took him to his home.
Very good. Well, we have much thanks for in the midst of the disappointment and all that's taken place. We just thank the Lord that no one has been seriously hurt.
Amen. We are grateful to the Lord that no one has really seriously been hurt.
Yeah, well, thanks for that.
Thank you.
Just while you're on, if anybody has a question for Brother Harold, please feel free to ask it just now.
I don't know whether it's them, Stephen, or not, but will materials be easily accessible to put the roof back on as soon as things are cleaned up?
At this time of the year, Brother Malcolm, it's not great for getting the thatch that we were using for the roof, but fortunately we had bought extra for other projects, so we will have some thatch there. But in the midst of the rain, it's not a great time to be doing this kind of work. This is part of the problem. There was a great thunderstorm, and the building was a wonderful shelter for people to go in out of the rain. The trouble was then they were all gathered together when the lightning struck.
It's a beautiful thatch job they did on it, didn't they, as well? So pictures of it.
Yeah, it was a beautiful job. But anyway, the Lord knows all about that. We're greatly disappointed. And
oh, well, God will supply. God will supply.
It had already been used. Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Brother Malcolm.
Thank you. Good to hear you. Got the whole thing very clearly.
Thanks. I would just like to say a very big thank you to Dan for that wonderful message. Dan, it was a real encouragement to listen to your brother. I didn't expect anything other than that, but it really was a great help to me personally. So I want to give thanks for that, and I've enjoyed your ministry this evening, as we've enjoyed your company and fellowship on so many occasions in the past. Thanks, Brother Dan. For some reason, everybody's got very shy.
When is your next intention of going to Malawi, Stephen, or even Jim?
God willing, Neil, I was planning to go at the end of next month.
Yeah.
As you know, I had to abbreviate my trip last month because of the Omicron breaking out, but that seems to be settling down, at least as far as travel restrictions are concerned, and I'd like to get back out whenever it's possible. It is the wet season at the moment, so there are reasons why this isn't the best time to be making a trip, but we'll look at that whenever the weather improves.
Yeah. Okay.
Good to see you, Neil. Good to see you, Christine. Brother Harold, if you're still there, we have a question on the chat. Someone is asking, is witchcraft a problem in Malawi? Would you like to answer that, Brother Harold?
Yes, witchcraft is still a problem in Malawi, in many parts of Malawi, actually. and beliefs connected to witchcraft.
Could you
Are
elaborate?
you able to hear me properly?
Yes, we could. Unfortunately, I talked over you. That was the problem. I thought you'd finished speaking.
Oh, sorry about that. Yes, I was just answering to say that witchcraft is still a problem in Malawi.
Okay, would you like to explain further?
Well, I wouldn't explain much further, but I would say that it's because we live in the villages and we know how these things happen all the time, and some of which are just beliefs and dark beliefs. So it's still a problem.
And how does it affect Christians?
Well, I would say that Christians are affected when you you take the gospel to places like those. Many people don't want the gospel and they oppose it, and they plan maybe to overthrow if you're having a gospel meeting, they plan to overthrow it. They don't want the gospel.
Yeah, thanks, Harold.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it looks as if maybe there are not a lot more questions. We'll just give another second or two if anybody has a question. And if not, then we'll bring the evening to a conclusion.
Could I just ask a question? Stephen, can you hear me?
That sounds like Brother Harold Hatt. I don't see your face, Brother Harold, but I recognize your
It
voice.
is. Well, I'm not sure how to show you my face because I'm not very good at these things. You may know. There was a couple of things came to mind, and there's three of us here from the Assembly in Basingstoke, and thoroughly enjoyed listening to that. And we will assure you of our prayers. I was just thinking of Psalm 29, and it is the voice of the Lord that divideth the flames of fire. And we fall back on God, don't we? And that psalm at the end, it comes, the Lord will give strength unto his people. The Lord will bless his people with peace. It's all very difficult, but we have a great God. And thank you very much for all that you and Jim have brought before us tonight. And Harold, it seems so strange. I think he's the only other Harold I know. And I don't know him, but it's great to hear him. And I was just wondering as well about the prison work, Stephen. Nothing has been said about that, but I take it it's still ongoing.
The prison work is definitely ongoing, Brother Harold. It has been affected somewhat by the COVID situation, and for a while the authorities were not permitting visits officially into the prisons. I haven't this evening mentioned all of the aspects of the work that we're engaged in, but Brother Ananda, dear Brother Dan, has mentioned the work going into India, and Brother Ananda is a brother from India, and he's living in the city of Blantyre, and his passion, amongst other things, involves prison work, and he's still involved on a daily basis, or on a regular basis, I should say, on visiting prisons as he's able. And we were just actually corresponding about that today. He's planning his movements for the next month or two, and plans to visit 6 or 7 prisons in different areas. So it is still on the go. We haven't been assembling as many of the prison packs, just because so many assemblies were not meeting together for a long time, Brother Harold, but we are hoping that that ministry will get back on track again. And we're certainly very, very grateful for all of the help from many, many different individuals and assemblies in putting together the hygiene packs that were sent out to the prisons. So I know that Basingstoke were very helpful in that, and we thank you for that. And to all of the other assemblies represented that have helped, we just take this opportunity to pass on our gratitude. on behalf of ourselves and all of those who have benefited.
Good. And again, thank you very much
You want to say
for that report.
And we see your face at last. Lovely to see you, Brother Harold.
Yeah, nice to see you too, Stephen.
Background, yeah.
Good. Yeah.
And just to say, Harold, there's a great lot of PPE about to go out to Malawi from us that was
It's there.
donated from HMP Durham here. So they need some.
So it would be
safety
very
equipment.
appropriate if we did the same again, would it? Because I know they would like to do that.
Oh yes, very much so.
Very definitely.
Do we have the list of it?
Good.
We have.
Well, I'm sure Priscilla will keep us in touch and so on, and we'll get that. Yeah. Thank you.
There's another question here, and maybe Stephen, if Harold's still there, he can answer this one. It's, what is the level of literacy in Malawi, and how effective is the literature with this in mind?
Excellent question. Brother Harold, would you like to take that question?
Sure. Well, the level of literacy in Malawi at the moment is quite high. When the second president came, they introduced free primary school education, and many people have benefited from that. And because of that, many people are able to read. That's why we are with strength. We go out with literature. We know many people are going to read the literature. And so when you speak about the effectiveness of literature, I'm so encouraged because I receive calls, many calls, maybe up to 200 in a day from all corners of the country. And this indicates that everybody's, almost many people are reading the literature that we give out. Others, of course, just read and they don't call me, but we are so much encouraged because we receive calls all the time. Others, and even text messages, others just giving testimonies how they've enjoyed reading our literature. But there are some few who give out some testimonies of how they have come to know the Lord Jesus as their personal savior as a result of reading our literature. So I have even text messages for that. So,
Brother Harold, maybe you would explain how a political move by Dr. Hastings Banda way back in the 60s, whenever he wanted to stamp his authority on the nation, the newly formed nation of Malawi, how that has benefited the work of the gospel because of the fact that Chichewa as a language is now known and taught universally across the country.
yes, yeah, you have just mentioned that. I wanted to mention that too, but anyway, that has also helped very much because everyone in the country, that is from the southern end, which is Malakam-Sanje, close to the border of Mozambique, all the way to the northern end of Malawi, which is the border of Malawi and Tanzania. Everybody can read Chichewa very well, and it is Kamuzu Banda put a stamp on it as a national language. So when we produce our literature in Chichewa, we know that it's going to be read across the country without any difficulties.
Brother Harold, approximately how many ethnic groups are there in Malawi with their own languages?
About 23 different ethnic groups.
But everyone who goes to school in Malawi, no matter which ethnic group they come from, they learn to read Chichewa.
Exactly.
So that has been a great blessing to us. Although there are some of the ethnic groups who would prefer literature in another language, in their own language, for political reasons, nevertheless, we are still able to reach them with Chichewa literature, which is a wonderful blessing.
Indeed, Stephen. It is so.
Yeah. Great question. Thanks to the Coles family for that.
Stephen.
The other thing that should be mentioned, by the way, is that because people are so poor, when you give them literature, they will not readily discard it the way people do in the West. If people can read and they want to practice reading, when you give them something, they will often hold on to it. The other thing is that a tract will often get passed from one person to another. So although we have given out many, many millions of items of gospel literature. Many of those will have been read multiple times. Maybe, Harold, you could elaborate on that, brother.
Oh, yes.
Tell us some of the stories that you know about that.
Oh, yeah. Some of the stories I know about what you're just talking about, Stephen, is many people have just bits and pieces of our tracts. Sometimes they go to somebody's home and they get a piece of tract, maybe a child toy, and they read it. They read just a part, and they find at the bottom my phone number, and immediately they give me a call. They want to read it in full because what they've read is just somewhat awaken their conscience, and they want to read everything. So those cases have been many, and others have been able to just pick them on the ground, and they take home, and then maybe just get a piece on the ground, and they take it home, and then they give me a call and say, we want more tracts of these. And I go to some of them, I find that they're already saved and they just need to be taught. And some of them, they are not saved, but they want to understand how they can be saved.
Harold, what would you say to the suggestion that literature work is not very glamorous, and so therefore we shouldn't really bother giving out gospel tracts either there in Malawi or perhaps in
James
our
and
own
Harold Tobin
What
there
would you say to that, brother?
with a response. That was
Well,
what
I don't.
it
Well,
said.
if that is so, I'll just let people come and see what the Lord is able to do with the literature work in Malawi and in the many lives of people that I personally know, and even the notion that people hear that we've stopped producing literature, I don't know if they would be happy to call me a friend again.
Brother Harold, I think you used some bait there to try and encourage people to come and see from
Oh,
themselves. And
well,
said that too, that a visit to Malawi will change your life forever.
God forbid, maybe not, but I'm just speaking of what's on the ground, Stephen. So,
Stephen, there's one more question. There's a question from Wallace Brown, and then there's another in chat question. So go ahead, Wallace.
Thank you. I was just wondering, in connection with the charge we got with the Great Commission again tonight, is there anything going within your own context, Stephen, there of that nature? Is there any small group, or is there anything already happening, or would it be something that would be considered to begin again? Thanks.
Thanks, Brother Wallace. Yes, you probably are aware, and I think you're alluding to the fact that over the years prior to COVID-19 coming, we took groups of people out each summertime, the summertime here in the month of August. I think maybe that's what you're referring to. We are hoping to be able to resume that as soon as practically possible. A lot will depend on COVID and travel restrictions, whether the borders are open and all that kind of stuff. Plus, the setback that we've had today, we were hoping that we would have accommodation in Malawi by this July or August, but our program has kind of been pushed sideways a little bit. We just have to wait and see. Did I get your question right, Brother Wallace, or had you something else in mind?
No, I was just wondering if something is existent happening in the sounding forth of the gospel within your own realm there, or people that you're in contact with, or is it something that, as I've said, would need to be considered again in the light of the circumstances and what can be promoted, that this command of the Lord's could be fulfilled?
Yes, well, I was delighted to be joined last month by Brother Bill Williams from North Carolina, and we had a short series of gospel meetings in the Msasa that was burnt down today. As soon as we can get something reestablished there, we'll be using it again, but that will not prevent the brothers to be preaching in whatever environments there are, and open air preaching is something that happens a lot. We don't need a building to preach. If we preach in the open air in Malawi, we'll get a crowd of people to stop and listen. So the work goes on, notwithstanding the setback.
Okay, thanks, Stephen.
One more question here in the chat. It says, how easy or difficult is it for interested folk to get Bibles?
Harold, I'll let you answer that, brother, and then I'll come in behind you if need be.
Thank you. Yes, when we are traveling across the country, we go to some of the remotest areas, and you find that there are so many people that don't have even Bibles, and they may be able to buy a Bible, but the Bible stores are not around, and so they request us to travel with Bibles. And so I asked Stephen, of which he kindly did, to help me with some Bibles so that when I go, we can just buy Bibles. And he bought Bibles from Philip Klaus in Lilongwe. And the intention is to travel with them so that whenever I'm traveling, I'm meeting such people, I should be able to give them some Bibles and sell them some Bibles at a discounted price. But at the same time, there are other people who are truly interested, but they don't have the Bible and they don't have the money to buy the Bible. And so we just pray that the Lord will help us to identify those people so that we should be able to help them in a way that we are able to help them, maybe just by trying to give them. And such people, Bible requests are almost every day. In a week, something like 10 or 15 people can give me a call to request for a Bible, a free Bible, or others, they can say, well, we are living here, we don't know where to buy the Bible. So yes, Bible needs are there. And so that's how we are trying to do.
Yes.
To make them available.
Thanks,
so
brother.
Stephen, to you,
approximately, could you explain to folks how much a Bible costs in Malawi, approximately these days?
Approximately these days, a Bible is about 10,000 kwacha, which is how much in like $10, something like that?
Or perhaps maybe $13, $14.
That's something like that, yeah.
And Brother Harold, what is the average daily wage in Malawi for a person who manages to get some work in the village?
For a person who manages to get some work in the village, like myself, I pay, when they work for me for 6 hours, if I'm doing some field work, I pay them 1,500 kwacha, or at least I try to pay 2,000 or 2,000 kwacha.
So just to put that in context, that would be £1.50 or $2 going up to £2, maybe $2.75, and a Bible costs $13 to $14. So you're talking about a Bible costing a week's wages or more if you haven't had to spend any money on rent or food or other things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And add to that the fact, as you said, that for people living in the villages to actually reach a place where they're selling Bibles is a major challenge.
Yes.
Thanks for explaining that, Brother Harold. And thanks to James and Pearl for that question. It is a very pertinent and helpful question. I don't know if there are any more questions at this point. We don't want to drag the thing out. If there aren't any more questions, we'll just bring the evening to a conclusion. I'm saying we'll bring the evening to the conclusion. I'm very much aware that there's folks over on the Pacific side of the US and Canada that for you, it's quite early in the day, and we're glad that you made the trouble of joining us so early. And I suspect there are people in Asia who have joined us, and for them it's early tomorrow as far as we're concerned. So we're glad to see you too. You can give us a wave